Hey guys, welcome back to Music Talk with John. Today I'm continuing through my record collection. I am continuing Eric Clapton actually. This is part 2 of Eric Clapton. In the first video, if you haven't seen that, I covered from the 70s up to the late 80s. And today I'll be doing part 2, and this will cover from the 90s to the current day Clapton. I have some of the albums, and what I don't have an album I have on CD. There's a couple that I don't have, but I'll talk about those briefly. But anyway, just sit back and let's talk Eric Clapton. Okay, so this is part 2 of Eric Clapton. We'll be picking up right here with the first album of the 90s for Clapton, and this was 1990 and 1991. This is it's called 24 Nights. It's a live double CD that came out. I don't have it on album. I don't know if this is available on album. I haven't really checked, but I wouldn't mind having it. It's a really good collection. So it was recordings over 24 nights at the Royal Albert Hall. And I don't know if Clapton was exactly celebrating anything in particular, but he did 24 nights, and he did a couple different things with it. I was refreshing my memory because it has been a little bit since I've actually listened to this CD, but I put it on today and I was like, man, I forgot how good this is. So like I said, it's all live, Royal Albert Hall. He had several types of bands and musicians. There was a 4-piece band, and that was his pretty much, I believe, his touring band at the time, with Nathan East on bass. Then he brought in a blues band, and he brought in 2 heavyweight blues artists with Buddy Guy and Robert Cray. Really good blues stuff there. Then he brought in a 9-piece band, and with some backing vocals and keyboards, and really, it seems like he went kind of simple to blues. Then he added a couple more band members to give it bigger sound, and then he ended up bringing for the last part of the CD an orchestra. And there's a song on here called Edge of Darkness, and you might not be familiar with it in the States, but there's a British TV show, I don't know if it was a miniseries or a regular show, where Eric Clapton was active in the soundtrack. And the 80s version of Edge of Darkness sounds very 80s and dated, but what he did with this live orchestra is amazing. He really brought out the heart of the song, and just brought it to life. It starts off real mellow and calm, and there's a moment where just boom, it comes in and just hits you. So definitely check that out. I don't have this on vinyl. Don't know, I haven't seen it on vinyl. I'm not sure if it's available or not, but I'd definitely like to have a copy of this. So that was 91. And unfortunately, not too much longer after this, in 91, Eric Clapton's son Connor passed away in an accident in New York City. So that definitely was a big change in his life, and I think it was like maybe in March of 91, don't quote me, but it was early, so you didn't really hear much of Clapton after that. What I read and saw was he went into hiding for a little bit. I don't know if he went back to dealing with addictions or not, or if he was able to keep himself strong enough to not do that, but you know, it was played a big impact on his life. So out of that experience, there was the song Tears in Heaven that came out. When the song was first played, it was actually for the movie Rush. So Tears in Heaven video was the actors and scenes from the movie. So that would be the next one here that I'm going to talk about, and that's the Rush soundtrack. Mostly instrumental. I mentioned Homeboy previously. Love that soundtrack. This one's good, but this is more of a soundtrack, like when Clapton did the soundtrack to Lethal Weapon. More like musical scores and things like that. And that's what this is basically. But at the end of it, it's kind of interesting. So 1 through 7 is basically instrumentals. And 8 is a song called Help Me Up, and I really like that song. It's Clapton singing the upbeat song. Then Buddy Guy, I believe, comes in on track 9. And it's a blues song. Don't know which way to go. And then the last song is the one we were just talking about. I was just talking about is Tears in Heaven. So that was the last song on there. Now, one album I forgot to bring up, and I actually forgot I had it in there because I have it with my soundtracks, not my Clapton music, is the Lethal Weapon soundtrack. So I do have this. It's a good sounding album, and it's on clear vinyl. And this is basically a soundtrack album. I think the only song with actual singing on it is the first one here, the Lethal Weapon song performed by Honeymoon Suite. And it's pretty cool. This is a reissue soundtrack. I don't usually pick up soundtracks, but I gave it a re-listen. It's good. I like it, but it's on this clear vinyl, which is really interesting. So there's that. So just wanted to bring that up. This was the first Lethal Weapon movie. I believe Eric Clapton's been on every one of the Lethal Weapon soundtracks, and this came out in 1987, I believe. Yeah, 1987. And what's funny is I just looking at the back here. I don't want to get too close, my camera gets a little blurry, but right there it's supposed to be Mel Gibson, and I thought he performed his own stunt, but I'm pretty sure that's a stuntman and not Mel Gibson right there. So just something I noticed when I was just looking at it. But anyway, the reason I brought that up because the next, it's not an album that I'm gonna mention, but it's a single that that I purchased for a movie, and I believe it is Lethal Weapon 3. And it was the single that Eric Clapton did with Sting, actually. Sting later released the song on one of his other albums without the Clapton part in there, which I don't get because I thought Clapton really added something to that song, so who knows what really happened there. Anyway, so this is the Lethal Weapon 3 soundtrack. It's probably me. There's two different versions of it on here. And like I said, it's Clapton and Sting. This came out in 1992. And I think it had some success. I remember getting quite a bit of radio play. It was kind of cool. Part of the song featured like a old Zippo lighter flipping open kind of thing. So it's kind of neat. So it's probably me. Kind of cool. Then Clapton went on MTV at the time, had a series called Unplugged, which this is again back when MTV actually played music, and they had a cool thing going here with Unplugged. A lot of bands had a lot of success with the Unplugged series, so Clapton put this out. So this was 1994, Eric Clapton Unplugged, and like I showed you before in my previous video, right here is the one-step version of it. I haven't done that, listened to it yet, but we'll probably do an unboxing of that and a listening and let you know what I thought. So here's my version of it, my original version. And it's a, double. I don't know if they did anything fancy. Nope, just black vinyl, which is cool. Put it on a 2-album set. Right there. And this one sounds good, not a pop. It sounds really good. I love putting this one on, so I can't imagine what that bad boy back there is going to sound like. Anyway, so it had songs on here. Sign, which was an instrumental, really cool song. I don't know if that's been played on anything else but this. One song that I believe was premiered here was Lonely Stranger, and there's one song called Circus, and that ended up on the Pilgrim album later on. And Circus was it's a song about the last night he spent with his son before his son passed away. They went to a circus in the city, and I think it was the next day the tragedy of his son occurred. So anyway, that's Eric Clapton Unplugged. The next one after that is Eric Clapton kind of went back. Well, he did. He went right back to his blues, roots, because that's where he came from. That's what that was his love. That's where he, most of his music was the blues in the beginning. You figured the Yardbirds, John Mayall, Cream was blues based. You know, there's always a root of the blues for Clapton. So this was the 1994. Yep, 1994, and this one really struck me odd in the beginning. The very first song is Blues Before Sunrise, and it is so raw, so live. I think he recorded it with a live band and maybe in an auditorium because there's some echo in there, but it really caught me off guard the way his voice was even on this, very gruff, and he just went for the blues. One surprising song on here is Motherless Child, It really sticks out from the album. It works, but it sticks out. It's acoustic based blues song. He actually had a video for that, so if you haven't seen that, check out Motherless Child. And Tore Down was on here. I don't remember if this was on another album, a cover, or if this is the first time he did on Tore Down, but that one always stuck out. I always enjoyed Tore Down. So it's a 16 song CD. I haven't seen it on, well, I think I've seen somebody that has it on vinyl, but I haven't come across it. But I definitely picked this one up. So this is Eric Clapton getting back to his blues roots. So he really poured it on there, I can tell you that right now. And then from there, he was involved in another soundtrack, and that's where this comes into play. And this is 1990. This is 1996, and it's from the album Phenomenon. And the album was the song has changed the world. Babyface wrote the song, and you can hear Babyface doing some backup vocals in there. And then Eric Clapton does a really nice instrumental version of Danny Boy on a guitar. So that's Changed the World, and that got a lot of play. I'm sure you know that song. So after Changed the World, there's this one was difficult for me to get to. This was 1996. This was Pilgrim, and Clapton wanted to write the saddest song ever, or saddest album ever written, and he does a pretty good job with it. And it took me a while to get into this album. It's way different than anything he's done. It's all the drums are programmed in there, and but his guitar work's still there. So it's a different feel for Clapton, but the melodies are there, and now that I've had it for a while, I've gotten into it. The first single off this was My Father's Eyes. That got pretty good radio play. If you put that on Clapton, Father's Eyes, you might recognize it. And then River of Tears, it's just a very slow song, depressing song, but really nice song. Circus is on here, the one that I mentioned about his son, so that's on here. And there's a blues one on here. I don't know if it was Sick and Tired, but it's a blues one, and he's talking about taking a shotgun to his woman. So it's a very bluesy song, but it's interesting because it has the programmed drums in there. So this is Eric Clapton, Pilgrim. And again, it's an album I didn't get at first, but it grew on me, so I'm glad I kept it. Now in 2000, so now we're in the 2000, we're out of the 90s, Eric Clapton teamed up with one of the blues legends out there, B.B. King. And these guys had wanted to work together for a long time. I think Eric Clapton did some work on an album for B.B. way back, maybe in the 70s. But this is the first album they did together, and this was a project that they had been looking forward to. So, great blues album, you know, just two blues guys at their best. I think BB maybe showed Eric up a little bit, you know, I gotta give BB the credit. But, you know, Eric held his own, you know, for being, you know, a good guitar player. But, yeah, I definitely like this album. I don't know if I think they released the song Riding with the King, and there was a video that was similar to this where they're cruising down the street in the car. But it's this one's a 2-record set. It's just on, yeah, just black vinyl. Sounds good. I don't have any pops. I really like what they did with the production on this. So this was 2000, Riding with the King, Eric Clapton and B.B. King. So the next one I have here is 2001 Reptile. Don't have it on vinyl. This was a little bit of a change again. So we went from Clapton doing the blues stuff to getting into kind of like a more electronic drum based thing, and then he kind of went back to his sort of regular recording habits, a little bit of blues, pop rock kind of stuff. Well, not so much pop, but he's not so much pop, but anyway, he got back to his regular formula, I guess you could say. So this is Reptile, and the term reptile, it's in here, it means, where I come from, the word reptile is a term of endearment used in much the same way as toe rag or moosh. Now, toe rag, it's just a phrase that popped out at me on Pilgrim, the very first song my father's eye. I'm just a toe rag, something. So I didn't realize that was a term. I didn't even know what he was talking about. So now I have to go back and look at those lyrics. But anyway, Reptile gets Clapton back, back to where his sound of you know, the 70s, 80s. But you know, he was always adapting himself too. So it wasn't quite the same, but it was more all acoustic instruments and good solid songs. Back to that, and no more of the electronic drum programming kind of stuff. Okay, the same year, 2001, Eric Clapton released this, and I thought this was one of the best live albums he had put out. He just really brought it up a level in my eyes for what he did to this. And what he did is kind of like what he did with the 24 Nights, just a little bit different, where he had different types of bands that he was using. This one starts off with, I think it's even the first, could be the first 4 songs. Key to the Highway, Reptile, Got You on My Mind, Tears in Heaven. I know he starts out there on the stage where he's there completely by himself playing an acoustic guitar, and then eventually a couple band members join him, and then as the songs progress, more guys join him, until he has his full band. Pretty sure Billy Preston is on this, and there's also another gentleman, I don't know his name, but he was a keyboard player, and the instrument he played, it was like an organ, but it was like the thing Joe Walsh has used, and what's his name, from Peter Frampton, that guy, where he had the little tube coming up and he would play it along with the guitar. This guy had it hooked up to the organ and really made it sound really cool, had a breathy sound to it, so you should check that out. But he did a really good job with this, and he goes through the hits. He has River of Tears here from Pilgrim, She's Gone, Have You Ever Loved a Woman, Cocaine, Wonderful Tonight, so all the hits are in there. My Father's Eyes, Bell Bottom Blues, even Change the World is here. And he does he ends it with an interesting way, and he kind of fools the audience with the introduction. But the very last song is Over the Rainbow, and I like his version of it. I think he did a really, really cool job with that, and it was neat to hear the audience kind of respond. It's kind of like when he did Layla on Unplugged, and the audience thought they recognized the song, and then they realized, oh, wait a minute, that's a different song, and they got excited. They kind of did that with Over the Rainbow on this. So there's the inside of that. It's a double record set. This one sounds really good. They've done, I'm not sure who's pressing Clapton stuff, but they're doing a good job with it. I haven't had any issues with these things. So it's a really enjoyable listen. Okay, so then 2004, Clapton really gets back into his blues and pays tributes to the king of blues, basically, the guy who gets credit for kind of being one of the first innovators of blues, or the first known guy of blues. That would be Robert Johnson. So Clapton did a tribute album to him, and this is I think this is a 2-record set. Is this a 2-record? No, just 1 record set. Great job at Clapton, you know, paying tribute to a blues guy like Robert Johnson. He really did a good job with this album. Nice blues album, covering, how many did he have here? 714 of Robert Johnson's songs. You can kind of see here, you got Robert Johnson. That's a picture they use quite a bit on Robert Johnson albums, and Clapton playing his guitar. So then Clapton turned around, and I don't know how he recorded it, but he came out with this a little bit later. I think it was the same year that it came out, but it was released separately. And it looks like it has some of the songs, yeah, it has some of the same songs as the first one, but he expanded it out and released more songs with it. And this one actually, it's kind of cool. I haven't found it yet on vinyl, but it came with a DVD, and it shows him going through the process of making this album and all the live performances. So it's really cool. If you find this and you like the blues, definitely pick this up. So there's your DVD and your CD in there. It's kept in pretty good shape. It's always tough with these paper cardboard things, but I've done a pretty good job with it, and I've had it for a while. So definitely, if you're looking into the blues, check this album out with Clapton. The next one I have here is 2005. It's Back Home, and it's just Clapton continuing his solo career. Good, solid album. I could really relate to when this came out, 2005, so I had a 1-year-old basically at that time, and the first song on this was called So Tired. And I don't know if I've shared it much, but I had a daughter who was in a NICU, and we had gotten her home after 3 months in the NICU, got her home, got her settled, and we were trying to balance things, you know, between work and getting things done, and we were tired, so I could relate to that song because he's talking about being tired and the baby's crying and all that stuff. So this album definitely appealed to me from the first song. And this has 12 tracks on it, and it's good, solid. Oh, I forgot I had my little... It's always fun to see the little surprises that you forget about in these things, but it has 4 guitar picks, Eric Clapton guitar picks. And I was smart enough, or whatever, to leave them in there. So that's kind of neat to see. And this one had a CD, and yeah, DVD. Just remember there's a DVD on the other side. So they were messing with technology there, CD and DVD of live performances of the album. Okay, so after Back Home, Eric Clapton collaborated with some people and put out a couple more albums. I don't have any of those on CD or vinyl. Kind of went through a period there. I don't even know why I didn't pick those up. I'm not sure, but I'm looking for them now. So the first one was in 2006. He did the Road to Escondido with Jj Kale, and that one was cool. I remember on that album, it's their voices were so similar. Like, I knew Clapton's voice and I had heard Jj Kale a little bit, but I'm listening to this album, I can't tell the difference between the two voices. Their voices were so close to each other. So if you ever see that, the Road to Escondido, you like, because Jj Kale wrote Cocaine and a couple other songs that Clapton covered. So if you ever see that and you like that style of music, you might want to pick that up. Then in 2010, Clapton put out an album called Clapton, and I just realized recently that it was a studio album. For some reason, I was under the impression the way the picture on the front looked and it just said Clapton. I was under the assumption for some reason that it was a compilation album, so I didn't even bother picking it up. I think at that time other compilations had come out, and I figured, well, this is just one more. And now I find out it wasn't. And to be honest with you, I didn't even listen to that album, so I'm going to have to go and check that one out. So after that, 2013, an album called Old Sock came out. I'm looking back because I thought I had it for some reason because I know the picture so well, but I don't have it. So that was another album. I have heard that album, and it's good. It's later Clapton. It's a little more mellow. You can tell he's mellowing out a bit. But I definitely like that album, so I'm looking for it. And in 2014, I'm not sure when Jj Kale passed away, but in 2014, he put out a tribute album with other artists called The Breeze, and they were covering all all Jj Kale songs as a tribute. And then in 2016, he came out with I Still Do, and I really enjoy this. Could have sworn I had this one. Yeah, I do have it over there on CD. This was they put it out as a 2-record set on black vinyl. Sounds good. Again, I don't know who's pressing Clapton stuff, but it's really good. And you can see where his hands are kind of I forgot what he was dealing with, some kind of skin disorder or whatever at the time. And so this is a really enjoyable album all the way through. It's more mellow, later Clapton. But it sounds really good the way they record this album. I watched a documentary on it before I had heard the album. And even just coming through my TV, it sounded so good. And when I bought the album and on the CD, it's just a really good sounding CD. It's not overproduced. You can hear all the instruments clearly. So they did a great job on this. And so this is the last album I have of Clapton. Then in 2018, Clapton put out an album called Merry Xmas, and it was a Christmas album, and it wasn't quite a traditional Christmas album. He had some rare Christmas songs on there, but it's a good album. I just haven't come across it to purchase it yet. So that's the end of Clapton. I hope you enjoyed that. So you can see he put out a lot. He's put out a lot of material. Like I said, almost an album every year, and then compilations in between. So he's always been a very busy musician. So I hope you enjoyed that. I will be continuing through the rest of my album collection after this in the next episodes to come. And I appreciate you watching. Definitely hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave comments. Let me know what you think of Clapton and anything I said, or if I missed out. I'm sure there's tons of stuff I missed out on, but you know, there's a lot to cover with Clapton, so it's really about my albums, but I kind of went a little bit further this time. So anyway, hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave me some comments, and I appreciate you watching. You take care, and until next time, enjoy your music.